I have seen countless of tourists in Japan make the same mistakes that could have been easily avoided if they had just done a little bit more research in advance. So today, let's go over some of the most common mistakes I've seen tourists make over the past 6 years I've been living here in Japan, because I promise they're really easily fixable, and thinking about these things in advance will make your trip go a lot smoother. Number 1, just coming to Japan at the wrong time, especially summer right now. It is miserably hot and humid, and it's not fun. I have a whole video on summer, but if you can, I would really avoid July and August especially. But also coming during a Japanese holiday. There are a few times a year where Japanese domestic tourists just crowd everywhere and everything, and if possible, you don't really want to be here during that time. Please see my separate video on that. Number 2, not dressing properly. Now, Japanese people in cities dress very well usually, and honestly, if you show up in leggings, you're gonna kind of stand out. I'm not saying you need to follow Japanese styling like rules or anything like that. You don't need to dress like Japanese people, but I would caution against wearing athleisure if you're not like hiking or something. I don't know, think about how European people dress. If you're European, you're probably fine. But more than the fashion, I see a lot of people here with the wrong shoes. In Japan, if you're here on a trip, you're probably going to be walking a lot, probably like 20,000 steps a day. Not only that, Japan has tons of stairs and metro stations just everywhere. So not only do you need to make sure that your shoes are comfortable, you need to make sure that they aren't really hard to lace up. In Japanese homes, it's common to not wear shoes in the house. But beyond that, even at like traditional style restaurants or hotels, if you visit a shrine, some museums even, if it's like an old castle, if there's like tatami especially, you're gonna have to take off your shoes. Leave the docks at home, guys. This is really not a good docks country for travel. An extra note of caution, if you are wearing sandals, that's fine, or any kind of footwear where you don't have socks on, I would always keep an extra pair of socks in your bag if you can. This is kind of niche, but there are like some museums and shrines, especially in Kyoto, where it's like tatami, or you have to take off your shoes to go in. And a lot of these places also do not allow bare feet. Like they want you to have socks on. This may never happen to you during your trip, but it's easy to put in your bag. Number 3, not booking your tickets for things in advance. There are a few activities, namely like Team Lab and the Ghibli Museum, where you really need to book these in advance because they do sell out very quickly. Number 4, not factoring in enough rest time into your schedule. Don't do too much in one day. Reserve things, but don't have your whole day be planned down to the minute with back-to-back reservations. You're gonna get really tired. But let's say you do have like a really packed day, that's fine, but make sure the next day is kind of more chill or you're gonna burn out. Same goes for traveling too much. I see a lot of people who want to fit a lot into their schedule, and it's too much. If you're here for a week, you don't want to go from Tokyo to Nagano to Karuizawa to Kanazawa to Kyoto to Osaka back to Tokyo. It's too much traveling. You can do it, but just be prepared for what you're getting yourself into. 5, not realizing how small hotel rooms can be in Tokyo. Same goes for beds. Hotel rooms here can be very tiny, especially for my American viewers. The hotel rooms that you experience here are probably going to be some of the smallest hotel rooms you've ever stayed in, but they're very efficiently designed. Really, the main negative is if you have a bunch of luggage, but it's just something to keep in mind. And then also the bed size. I've seen a lot of people who accidentally reserve a bed that's really only meant for one person. Like even if it says it can fit 2 people online, it probably means like a child and like a mother, that kind of thing. Just be careful about the bed size. 6, worrying too much about the language gap. If you speak English, well, you're watching this video, so probably you do, then honestly, you're gonna be fine. Many people nowadays in the tourist areas especially do speak enough English to communicate with you about, you know, whatever you might need help with. It's certainly not everyone. It's not everyone, but you're gonna be fine. You're gonna get by. Also, a lot of like products here, a lot of items also have English on them now. It's good to learn basic Japanese if you can, because a little bit will go a long way, but don't stress about it too much. 7, trying to plan things or even coming as a really large group. Japan is aimed for very small families, hence the low birth rate maybe. No, but seriously, if you're more than 4 people, you're gonna find it a lot more difficult to get into restaurants without making a reservation. You're gonna find it kind of difficult to do a lot of things. And inevitably, if you do come as a bigger group, say like a friend group, people are gonna have different interests interests. Some people might want to do shopping, some people don't care about shopping. So keep that in mind. You don't all have to stay together all the time during your trip, maybe, unless you're a family then. But also I'd caution against trying to find a hotel room that can fit everyone. There are hotel rooms that can accommodate large groups, but there's not that many at all compared to the number of rooms that can fit like 4 people. 8, not bringing a VPN if you want to keep up with your shows while you are traveling. So this is where I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, NordVPN, because a lot more content is geo-blocked than you think. So if you're coming to Japan and you're thinking like, oh, I can't wait to watch anime in the land of anime, well, think again, because sites like Crunchyroll are actually totally blocked here. You cannot access them. So not only does a VPN like NordVPN help you get around this by changing your IP address so it looks like you're physically like in a different country, it also protects your private and personal information so that you can connect to the internet safely, which is really important because honestly, Japan is not that up to date with internet safety, anything, especially public Wi-Fi networks. They are iffy. I mean, look, I've been a loyal NordVPN user for years and it's really been a lifesaver. So if you're interested in being able to browse the internet safely while also being able to access all the same sites, all the same content that you can back home while you're traveling, then try NordVPN out for yourself risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee by using my link at nordvpn.com/Allison in Tokyo, where every purchase of a 2-year NordVPN plan also comes with 4 extra months on top. So thank you, NordVPN. And now number 9, not planning out your public transportation if you're traveling outside of the major cities. So if you're going somewhere more rural, I really recommend you plan out every single leg of your trip in advance because buses and trains are really not that frequent depending on where you're going. In many rural places, there is only going to be one every like 2 hours, sometimes even less. Just keep it in mind if you're going somewhere rural. 10, not considering what time your flight arrives or leaves from the airport in Japan. So I say this in a lot of videos, but really important to note and really easy to overlook is that the trains in Japan, even in Tokyo, stop running from between about midnight to 5 a.m. So Tokyo has 2 airports, Narita and Haneda, for example. And Haneda, I'd say you could get the last train into the city at about 11:30 to midnight, but Narita, the express trains stop at around 10 p.m. So you need to think, what if your flight gets a bit delayed? What if you need to wait in a really long line at customs? And also if you're planning on like sending your luggage out through a delivery service, which I really recommend, you won't be able to do that because the counters close at night. It's just something to think about. You may have to get a hotel nearby for the night. And this goes for early morning flights as well. 11, very similarly to that, not planning a chill arrival day. Depending on where you're coming from, you may be really sleep deprived, like I always am when I arrive at the airport. And if you try to plan to do something like, let's say your flight arrives in the morning and you want a reservation in the afternoon for like Team Lab, you're gonna be probably really tired and not have that much fun. But I see people who really try to pack their schedules really tightly like this, and I just don't recommend it. If possible, I just leave your arrival day totally open so you can just kind of vibe and see how it goes. 12, a bit specific, but a lot of people travel to Mount Fuji just to see Mount Fuji. But honestly, it's actually cloudy quite a lot and you may not be able to see it. It's great to go, but just don't make that your only activity. If you're going to Hakone or Kawaguchiko, try to plan something else because the weather's so unpredictable and the best time to see Mount Fuji is in the really early morning. But a side note, if you do want to see Mount Fuji and you're going to be traveling between Tokyo and Kyoto at some point on the bullet train, then try to book your window seat in advance on the correct side because you can actually see Mount Fuji quite clearly depending on the day and weather. So if you're going from Tokyo to Kyoto, this is going to be on the right side of the train, and then on the left side if you're coming from Kyoto to Tokyo. 13, just buying the JR pass without really putting too much thought into it. You used to be able to just buy the JR pass and it'd probably pay for itself, but nowadays that's not the case. I have a whole nother video on this, but they did almost double the price of the JR pass last year, and because of that, it's not as good of a value at all. So alternatives, there are a lot. There's actually a lot of regional passes by JR as well. Please look them up. I have a link in the description down below too. Or you may not even need a pass. It just kind of depends where you're going. I would add up the expensive legs of your trip and just see if it's worth it. 14, not getting a Suica card, or well, any transportation card. This is a Suica. It's the most popular transportation card in Tokyo. And you can either get the physical version or you can just get it on your cell phone. You can download it in advance before even coming to Japan. It just goes right into your wallet. Look it up. It's really easy. I recommend it. Do one of the two. You can just buy this at like any station almost. Get one. Not only do you just tap onto public transportation like trains, etc. with it, but you can even use it to buy things like at the convenience store so you don't need to worry about, you know, getting all the cash out and stuff. It's really convenient. 15, not planning out your meal times. So lunch in Japan is usually between 12 and 2 p.m. and then dinner is probably about 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. And a lot of restaurants close in between lunch and dinner. But not only that, last order for restaurants can be surprisingly early. Depends on the restaurant and where you are. But it is not rare to have a restaurant with a last order time of like 8 p.m. or even earlier, so just be careful. Also, if you're planning to go out to eat on the weekend, I would see if you could reserve a place maybe, because restaurants do get booked up here. And sometimes you can just book it through Google Maps directly, or you could use like Table Check for English. But if you don't want to do that, that's fine. Some restaurants don't even take reservations, and in these cases, if the restaurant's popular, if it's really good, if it has a good rating on Google Maps, you're probably gonna have to line up. Japanese people love to line up for everything. So sometimes you're just gonna like literally just wait in a line for maybe an hour even if it's like really popular. Or other places will have like a piece of paper out front where you write down your name and how many people are in your party. Be prepared to wait. 16, not being prepared for how you're gonna address dietary restrictions and allergies. So in Japan, many restaurants are not gonna change anything on the menu to accommodate you. Local restaurants may, it kind of just depends on the restaurant, but like chain restaurants especially can usually be notoriously unwilling to even like remove a tomato or anything from like a hamburger. But places are generally more willing to like work with you if you tell them about it in advance if you're making a reservation, especially for more expensive like course restaurants and things. A lot of these will have some kind of option when you book it, or you can just leave a comment, whatever. Allergies will be taken very seriously, but I really recommend like getting a card in advance that lists your allergy in Japanese clearly. But still, the restaurant may not be able to accommodate you. It kind of just depends. Also, vegetarianism and veganism are really not that popular among Japanese people at all still here. If you are vegetarian, most places will have something you can eat, but veganism is much more difficult. Like, I would really research everywhere you're going to be eating in advance. 17, not knowing how to order or pay for food at a restaurant. So just a note that wait staff here generally do not like hover. You need to make eye contact with them or like vocally call out to them, or there may be a button on the table you can press. And then to pay the bill, well, you've probably already heard that Japan is a cash country. This is true. You definitely should always have cash on you, even in Tokyo, because some local restaurants and shops even will not accept anything but cash. But a lot do take things other than cash now, especially since COVID, but still. So at restaurants, some places you do pay at your table, but what's most common is you're gonna have to like walk over to a cash register once you're done with your meal. There's probably gonna be like a piece of paper on your table that you take up with you. Not always, but usually look for it first. And then when you go to pay, you need to put your money, if it's cash, into a tray. They'll almost always will have a tray. It's considered rude to like accept the cash directly. Even if you have a card, sometimes you need to put in the tray. It kind of depends on the restaurant. Also, no tipping. Stop it. Unless there's a tip jar, then you can do it, but don't leave it at the table. 18, coming with a full suitcase. Japan is like amazing for shopping, and I frequently see people buying extra suitcases to fit all of the stuff they buy. So try to come with a suitcase half full, I'd say, if you're planning on doing any shopping at all. 19, perhaps the most important one, is over planning your trip. So of course, as I've said, you should reserve and plan out your trip to some extent, right? But you also need to prioritize having pockets of downtime where you don't have any plans, because usually the things you do in these like last minute decisions where you're just wandering around town are probably some of the most like impactful memories, or you'll meet people or something. It's very important to have, especially in Japan. Also, it is great to watch videos like these, but it's also natural to make mistakes, especially cultural ones when you're visiting a foreign country. Japanese people are very kind and they're very understanding, and as long as you're trying your best to be considerate, that's all you really need to do, because people get it, you know? Look, I've been here for years, and every now and then there will still be something that surprises me. So that's all the tips for this video. Let me know down below if you have any other tips, or if you'd like to see another video with more, because there's a lot more. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to my channel for more content about traveling in Japan, and I'll see you guys back here again soon. Bye!